Hey YouTube, welcome to Sucker's Lab. Today I'm actually going to try to fit 3 OU battles into one video, and the reason for that is because I want to discuss Genesect's ban, and also just the effects that I think Genesect had on the metagame while it was OU, and also the effects it had on my team building experiences and my actual competitive battling. So let's just get into the battle. As you can see, I have a Genesect on my team. I will be using the same team for all 3 battles. This is my basically my default rain team that I use anyway. So he leads off with his Rotom Wash, I lead off with my Politoed. I don't want to lose my Politoed yet, so I go into my Gastrodon to take the predicted Volt Switch. However, he goes for the T-Bolt, which leads me to believe that he's not choiced. I have to go back into my Politoed to sleep fodder or something, because I don't want anything important going to sleep, and my Politoed is useless because he doesn't have any weather. After he puts my Politoed to sleep, I go into my Tornadus T just to try to hit him with Hurricane. I actually predicted him to go into his Heatran there, but instead he goes into his Donphan, and I don't know why. And I also don't know why he didn't go for the Ice Shard either. But I mean, I knew I could take him out with the Hurricane from that range, so I just took him out. I guess it kind of was a free kill for me. And at this point, I may have thought he was Scarfed still, because he did a good job of faking it at this point, because he's only going for Thunderbolt. I haven't seen any items. I don't have Stealth Rocks up, so I don't get to see if he has leftovers or not. Anyway, so I go into my Genesect, excuse me, and I go for the Rock Polish. And this is, you might think, oh, good game, he went for the Rock Polish. Nope. Unfortunately, I don't get to go for the whole sweep. I do take out his Breloom, however, and that's awesome because that was the biggest threat in his team. Then the Heatran comes in, and if you don't know, Heatran can take a +1 Thunder and KO in return, even in the rain, with any fire move. So those of you who are curious about how to check Genesect, there you go. Especially defensive Heatran takes a Thunder. Even regular Heatran takes a Thunder. Anyway, I bring in my Terrakion after he takes out my Genesect, and I know he's not going to stay in with his Heatran, so I go straight for the Stone Edge, take out his Victory Melon one hit. Then he goes into his Rotom Wash, and I bring in my Gastrodon because obviously Gastrodon is the best check to Rotom Wash. And at this point, I really think that he was trying to fake a choice item. However, after I hit him into a leftovers, that's kind of that's pointless because I know he has leftovers now. Which that's the only reason I could think of why he would go for Hydro Pump twice when I have Storm Drain. Anyway, he brings in his Latios, and at this point, I know that I can Toxic Stall him out with my Gastrodon. However, I really didn't feel like sitting here for like 8 turns just going for a recover, so I went for a Scald just to get off some extra damage because like I said, I didn't want to sit here for an extra 8 turns just to wait for him to die to Toxic. And this Psyshock is really not doing that much. He has leftovers, but I mean, it also is a Latios, and it's hitting on my weaker defensive side, so I don't know, maybe he's like mixed or something, something weird. And then he goes for the Draco Meteor, and actually does less than the Psyshock, so that's unfortunate for him. So his Latios goes down, and then he brings in the Heatran and goes for the Earth Power, I guess just trying to weaken me, but I'm obviously able to take him out with the Earth Power at +2 special attack. And then he brings in his Gastrodon, he brings in his Rotom, my Gastrodon, excuse me, and he goes for the Hidden Power, and I was scouting for Hidden Power Grass, that's why I went for Recover here, because otherwise, if he didn't have Hidden Power Grass, I know that I can wall him completely. He has Pain Split, Hydro Pump, Thunderbolt, and Hidden Power. I'm assuming Hidden Power like Rock or something. Maybe, I don't know what he would run Hidden Power Rock for. I just can't think of anything that would not hit Gastrodon super effectively that would be used on coverage with Rotom Wash. Excuse me. And basically I missed a Toxic. I'm just trying to Toxic him, wear him down a little bit. My goal here is to actually get him to a point where I know he'll go for Pain Split, so I can switch out into something else to take out this Rotom Wash. Preferably my Terrakion, because on this team, my Terrakion is my favorite player, without a doubt. So predicting him to go for the Pain Split here, I go into my Terrakion, he does go for the Pain Split, and then I'm able to just finish up the match with a Close Combat. Banded Close Combat, by the way. I've since changed his team. You won't see it in this video, but in future videos, obviously since Genesect was banned, I have replaced Genesect. I've actually replaced Gastrodon and I have made my Terrakion a Scarf Jolly set, and I actually made my Tornadus a Specs set. And I know Specs seems stupid, but with the fact I don't have any spinner on this team, I figured that Specs Tornadus would work well with the Stealth Rock damage. So, and it's proven to be a very, very powerful threat, and it's won me a few battles already. So, anyway, I'm gonna get into the next battle. As you can see on his team, he has a Kingdra and a Cloyster, and to be completely honest with you, I don't want either of these things setting up in the rain. So I actually am going to do my best not to set up rain with my Politoed. So I actually lead with my Terrakion, expecting him to lead with his Cloyster, to maybe try for the early game sweep. He actually leads with his Virizion. Maybe he wasn't Jolly, maybe it was a speed tie, but I'm still banded, like I said. So he must have either been not Jolly or it must have been a speed tie. He brings in the Scizor, the obvious Bullet Punch is obvious, so I just go into my Gyarados. Gyarados is an amazing check to Scizor. I go for the EQ. I didn't want to go for the Earthquake because he could bring in his Kingdra for free, and I didn't want that. I didn't want him setting up Dragon Dances on me. So, yeah, I just keep going for the Earthquake. He Swords Dances up once. I go for the Earthquake again. Now here, I thought I could live another Bullet Punch, which obviously I could have, and then gone for the Dragon Dance and been able to sweep the rest of his team, or at least do a chunk of damage to the rest of his team. Unfortunately, he goes for the U-turn, and because it is a much more powerful move than Bullet Punch, it actually takes me out. And I was just kind of like, this is bad. Like, I like my Gyarados. That was the point of making this team. Anyway, he brings out his Kyurem on the double down, and I bring in my Terrakion. He brings in his Gliscor on the predicted close combat. I go for the Stone Edge, and it does nothing. And then I bring in my Tornadus, and he decides to stay in when I go for the U-turn, and that leads me to believe that he's either going to Toxic me, or I don't know, Sub or something. So I just went into my Genesect thinking I could set up on him. However, seeing that he doesn't have the Toxic Orb, and seeing as he doesn't go for Toxic, I assumed that he was an offensive set, and when he went for Rock Slide, I obviously can't stay in and set up on him. So anyway, he brings in his Kingdra. I take it out with a combination of Ice Beam and Bug Buzz. He brings in his Cloyster. I take it out with Thunder. Then he brings in his Kyurem. I go for the Bug Buzz, do 80% to his Kyurem, and then he outrages me to take me out. And then I bring my Politoed. It's physically defensive, so I know that I can take an outrage, and then he dies to Life Orb. So yeah, that's it for his Kyurem. And as you can see, Genesect did a decent amount of work in this battle. It did a little bit of work in the last battle. It took out the biggest threat in his team in the last battle. It took out a big chunk of Heatran's health as well. And then on this battle, he actually took out the Cloyster, the Kingdra, and they effectively took out the Kyurem as well. So 3 members of his team down to not even a +2 speed. All I had was a plus in special attack. I didn't even get a Rock Polish off. So obviously you can see that Genesect is very good for this team, and obviously he just quits at the end of this battle because he has a Gliscor left and he can't touch the rest of my team with his Gliscor without dying first, so there's no point in staying and wasting anybody's time. Anyway, this is the third and last battle. As you can see, my team is on the other side, once again using the same exact team, and he has a Sandstorm team, and the only threats that I was really worried about on this team was the Alakazam, and I was a little bit afraid that the Skarmory would end up walling, because obviously it's a Skarmory, and my main attackers that I like to sweep with are my Terrakion and my Gyarados. So I was kind of worried that that Skarmory would become an issue. But other than that, the rest of his team seems pretty straightforward. He does have 2 Pokemon to set up the sand, but I'm not too worried about that because my team isn't hurt too bad by the sand. 3 members are immune to it, and I have something to set up rain. Anyway, he leads with his Hippowdon. I lead with my Genesect, and right off the bat, he assumed that he could live a hit, but he can't. A +1 Ice Beam takes out Hippowdon from full health. So yeah, that's that. I switch out of my Genesect because he brings in the Regirock, and the Regirock gets the special defense boost in the rain. I bring in my Politoed because it's physically defensive. I figured he would go for an attacking move rather than a defensive move because obviously he doesn't want my Genesect setting up on him. I shouldn't say defensive move. I just assumed he wasn't going to set up Stealth Rock right then. Anyway, I go for the Skull, take 50% off his Skarmory, which is great. And then he whirlwinds me out when I bring in my Genesect. I was hoping maybe I'd be able to get a Rock Polish up and he would not be expecting it. But unfortunately, he just whirlwinds me out. So he whirlwinds me to my Gastrodon, and I go for the Scald on the Skarmory, and I get the burn. The burn doesn't matter because I just kill him up in the next turn anyway with a Scald, and he lives the burn in the turn before, so it's pretty irrelevant. He brings in this Tyranitar, and seeing as it's a Balloon Tar, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be Dragon Dance, and I know my Politoed can come in and take any hit, and then Perish Song or Encore. Now I was expecting him to actually go for the second Dragon Dance, because if he did that, he'd be able to outspeed the rest of my team. But instead he goes for the Stone Edge. That gives me the chance to Encore him into Stone Edge, bring in my Genesect, and I'm pretty sure I can live a +1 Stone Edge. And in the rain, I'm actually going to get the special attack boost from the Tyranitar. That allows me to go for the Rock Polish, and I can go for the Bug Buzz on this Regirock. It actually does 90% to a Regirock. And I know Regirock is not getting the special defense boost, but that's a lot of damage. He goes for the Rock Slide and misses. That sucks for him, but I don't know. Hacks happens, you just gotta accept it, get over it. He brings in this Tyranitar, and even with the special defense boost, this Bug Buzz clean takes him out. And obviously he wasn't a defensive variant, but that's still pretty crazy. He brings in his Landorus. I'm assuming it's Scarfed, but at +2 speed, he's not going to outspeed me. Take him out with an Ice Beam, and then his last poke is this Alakazam, and I'm able to take him down to his Sash with the Bug Buzz, and obviously, as you can see, my Genesect actually took every single poke on his team down, except for his Alakazam's 1% health. And then I'm able to just bring in my Gastrodon and finish up the match. He goes for the Energy Ball. Obviously, it does Hefty Chunk being 4x effective, but actually live it because I'm a special defensive wall, and then take him out with a Scald. So, as you can see, Genesect did more than I could have ever asked for. It basically swept his whole entire team just by going for a Rock Polish. It basically, if I get a Rock Polish off my Genesect on a team like that, where it's not put together so well, and the team isn't exactly like OU material, a lot of the Pokemon on his team are UU, and or at least I think that they should be UU. For example, Alakazam, it doesn't get enough usage to be OU. Regirock, I believe, is NU even, and Hippowdon as itself is actually like RU without the Sandstorm. So, I mean, obviously, as you can see, his team wasn't exactly full of threats like mine was, but whatever. I mean, it was fun, and I enjoyed using Genesect while it was in OU. Now, some people might think that Genesect was banned because it was overpowered. That's actually not the case. Genesect was actually banned because it was over-centralizing. And as you can see in this battle, it wasn't overpowered. He could have checked my Genesect from step 1 with the Alakazam. So that would have been over. However, he made the poor play to let the rest of his team die first. Anyway, the reason why it was banned is because it was over-centralized. It over-centralized the metagame. It made you have to run a counter to this Pokemon. It made you basically have to run something that could either take this Pokemon out, or be able to take multiple hits from it and cripple it in return with a Thunder Wave or something, like Blissey. That's why it was banned. It wasn't banned because it was too powerful. It was simply banned because it was over-centralizing. And as you can see in this battle, he had nothing that could really take on my Genesect, except for the Alakazam, but the Alakazam could only even take me on because of a Sash. So it's more of an item that took me on, not necessarily the Pokemon. Whereas if you ran something like Heat Train, like you saw in the first battle, yeah, sure, you're going to be able to take me on, but it's not really good to have to be forced to run a Fire type in order to be able to take on Genesect, because, in my opinion, that's just not really fair. And obviously, Smogon agrees with me because they banned it on over-centralization. So, anyways, I'm going to stop rambling. Thanks for watching the battle. Feel free to hit the like button, and feel free to comment if you have anything to say about the Genesect ban, or anything else about this video in general. And thanks for watching. See you later.